On a cold evening, a small boy stood shivering outside a closed bakery. His hands were empty, but his eyes were full of quiet desperation. He didn't want money, just a little help. No one else stopped to look twice. But when he knocked on the bakery door, everything changed. In a small town where winter felt sharper than most places, lived a 10-year-old boy named Aram. His clothes were thin, worn from years of being passed down, and his shoes had holes big enough to let in the cold wind. He wasn't used to complaining. Life had taught him early that silence required less strength than words. Aram lived with his mother and younger sister in a tiny rented room at the back of an old building. His father had left when he was 6, and since then, his mother worked long hours cleaning houses just to afford rent and a little food. Some days they had bread and tea. Other days they just drank water and tried to sleep through hunger. On this particular evening, his mother hadn't returned yet. She had promised to bring home leftovers from one of the houses she cleaned, but the sun had already slipped behind the clouds, and Aram could hear his little sister's stomach growling. She tried to smile and say she wasn't hungry, but the way she held her belly told another story. Aram couldn't bear to watch her like that. He remembered the bakery at the end of the street, a place where the air always smelled like fresh bread and sugar. People often threw away leftover bread at night. He had never gone there before. Shame always held him back. But today, hunger and worry were stronger than pride. With careful steps, he wrapped his sister in the only blanket they had and asked their elderly neighbor to keep an eye on her. Then he walked down the street, his steps echoing in the quiet night. The bakery lights were off, and the front sign said, "Closed." Some workers were still inside, cleaning up, but the main door was locked. Aram hesitated, his breath fogging in the air. His stomach ached, but his heart ached even more for his sister. He tried looking through the window, hoping someone might see him, but no one did. He thought of leaving, telling himself maybe his mother would return soon. But then he remembered his sister's eyes, tired and hopeful, and something inside him whispered, "Try once." He walked to the side door, the one the staff usually used. His fingers were stiff from the cold, but he raised his hand and knocked gently. No answer. He waited, hugged himself for warmth, then knocked again, slightly louder. Still nothing. For a moment he thought of turning back. He imagined people laughing at him if they knew he had come just to ask for bread. But before he could walk away, he softly knocked a third time. Inside, someone heard. Mr. Kamal, the bakery owner, was in the back checking inventory when he heard the faint tapping. At first, he thought it was just the sound of a loose shutter hitting the wall, but when he heard it again, he decided to check. He walked towards the side door and opened it halfway, expecting a delivery boy or a staff member who forgot something. Instead, he found a small boy standing alone, his head slightly bowed, his hands clasped together. "Yes? What do you need?" Mr. Kamal asked, not unkindly, but not warmly either. Aram's voice trembled. I'm sorry to bother you, sir. I was wondering if you had any leftover bread. Anything you don't need. I can pay later or—" Before he could finish, one of the bakery workers, a tall man named Rahim, appeared behind the owner. "Sir, just tell him we're closed." "Kids these days ask for food like it's nothing." Aram lowered his gaze. He wasn't angry, just embarrassed. He didn't want to look like a beggar. He wanted to be someone who tried. Another worker cleaning trays glanced at him and shook her head with disapproval. "People send their kids now so we feel guilty," she whispered. Aram heard it. His cheeks burned. He quickly said, "I'm sorry. I'll go." His voice was cracked but polite. He turned around, trying to walk away with dignity, even though every step felt heavy. His stomach hurt, but the words he heard hurt more. As he reached the end of the alley beside the bakery, snowflakes began to fall. They melted quickly on his face, mixed with tears he tried to hide. Memories of the last time he cried in public came rushing back. 2 years ago, he had asked a fruit seller if he could take the bruised apples no one bought. The man had shouted at him in front of others, calling him a beggar's son. That day, Aram had promised himself he would never ask again. Tonight, He had broken that promise for his sister, but instead of help, he felt small again, invisible, ashamed. He leaned against a cold wall and took a deep breath, trying to swallow the lump in his throat. The world around him kept moving, distant car horns, fading footsteps, but he felt frozen in place. In the bakery, Mr. Kamal closed the door but didn't walk away. Something about the boy's voice stayed in his mind. He remembered the way his own son used to speak when he was scared to ask for something, but Rahim's voice snapped him out of his thoughts. "Sir, these kids take advantage. If you give one, you'll have 10 more tomorrow." Mr. Kamal nodded, but absent-mindedly. Meanwhile, Aram slowly began walking back, hoping his mother had returned. His hands were rubbed raw from the cold. His lips were pale. He didn't know that someone was watching him from behind the bakery window, someone who had heard everything. As Aram stepped back into the street, he heard hurried footsteps behind him. He stopped, unsure if someone was calling him or if he was imagining it. "Beta, wait!" a voice called out gently. He turned and saw Mr. Kamal jogging toward him, wrapped in a flour-dusted apron and holding a small paper bag. His face looked different now, softer, thoughtful, almost guilty. Aram wiped his cheek quickly, pretending it was just snow. "I'm sorry, sir. I wasn't trying to cause trouble." Mr. Kamal placed a hand on his shoulder. "You didn't cause any trouble. I'm the one who was slow to understand." He held out the paper bag. "Here. There are some buns and a few slices of bread, still warm." Arham stared at the bag like it was something unreal. "But I can't pay right now." "You don't need to," Mr. Kamal said gently. "Food is for eating, not for throwing away." Before Aram could speak, the bakery door opened again. A woman from the staff, the same one who had whispered earlier, stepped outside carrying a second bag. Her eyes looked different now. Ashamed, maybe even sorry. She approached quietly and said, "There's some cake pieces, too. They were extras from today's orders." Arham took both bags carefully, as if they were made of glass. His voice was barely a whisper. "Thank you. Thank you so much, but Mr. Kamal wasn't done." "You said you'd pay later," he said with a kind smile. "If you want, you can come by after school for an hour sometimes. Help stack boxes or sweep. Not because you owe me, but because work builds confidence. And this place could use someone responsible." Aram's eyes widened, not with fear, but with a spark of pride he hadn't felt in a long time. "I can do that," he said softly. "I'd like to." Mr. Kamal nodded. "Good. And next time you need something, don't walk away. Just knock once. I'll hear." A laugh escaped Aram through tears. He didn't realize he was crying until a tear rolled down his cheek and dropped onto the bag. The baker noticed. Without saying a word, he gently placed a warm loaf in the boy's hands, as if sealing a quiet promise between them. As Aram walked home, the snow kept falling, but somehow it didn't feel as cold anymore. His heart felt lighter with every step. He imagined his sister's face when she saw the food. He imagined his mother's relief. For the first time in a long while, he felt like the night had given, not taken. Back at the bakery, Rahim watched from the window, unsure of what to feel. The woman who had judged earlier whispered, "We were wrong." Mr. Kamal didn't reply. He just looked toward the street, his eyes soft. Remembering a time when he was young and hungry, and someone had shown him kindness too. Sometimes, a knock isn't a disturbance. It's a silent plea for hope. One act of kindness can erase years of silent pain. Judgment closes doors, but compassion opens hearts. That night, bread didn't just feed hunger, it healed dignity, and a boy walked home not just with food, but with faith in people again.